There's a silent danger hiding in plain sight across American backyards, hiking trails, and suburban hedgerows, and most people walk right past it without realizing they're inches away from something that could make them violently ill or worse. These aren't exotic jungle plants or rare wilderness specimens. They're common berries that look innocent, even appetizing, growing on bushes and vines that thrive from coastal California to the woodlands of Maine. If this sounds like something every gardener, parent, and outdoor enthusiast needs to know, then smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss vital information that could protect you and your family. Let's dive into this together, and I'm grateful you're here learning alongside me today. Picture a late summer afternoon when the hedgerows are heavy with fruit and everything seems ripe for the picking. You're wandering through a park, or maybe trimming back some wild growth along your property line, and you notice clusters of glossy berries that look almost good enough to eat. That moment of temptation is exactly when you need to know what you're looking at, because pokeweed berries might be the most deceptively beautiful poison growing wild across the eastern United States. This towering plant can reach 10 feet tall by midsummer, with thick magenta stems that look almost tropical and long clusters of dark purple berries that hang like tiny grapes. The entire plant contains phytolacca toxin, and while birds can eat the berries without harm, humans who consume them experience severe gastrointestinal distress, vomiting, and potentially dangerous drops in blood pressure. Pokeweed thrives in disturbed soils, which means it loves to pop up along fence rows, in abandoned lots, and at the edges of gardens from Texas all the way to Massachusetts. Young pokeweed shoots are actually eaten as a traditional spring green in some southern communities, but this requires multiple boilings to remove the toxins, and the berries are never safe at any stage. The plant's aggressive nature means it can take over an area quickly, and its deep taproot makes it challenging to remove once established. Children are especially at risk because those shiny purple berries look remarkably similar to safe blueberries or elderberries to untrained eyes. Have you ever spotted this magenta-stemmed giant growing wild in your neighborhood? Now let's talk about something that might be growing as an ornamental right outside your front door without you realizing it carries a dark secret. Yew shrubs are incredibly popular in American landscaping because they're evergreen, shade-tolerant, and can be sculpted into elegant hedges that look pristine year-round. You'll find them flanking entryways in the Pacific Northwest, forming privacy screens in suburban Philadelphia, and anchoring foundation plantings across the Midwest. But here's what most homeowners don't know. Nearly every part of the yew plant contains taxine alkaloids that affect the heart, and the effects can be swift and severe. The only part that isn't toxic is the fleshy red aril, that bright scarlet cup that surrounds the seed, but even that becomes dangerous because the seed itself inside that fleshy coating is highly poisonous. Livestock deaths from yew are well documented, and human poisonings, while less common, can occur when children mistake the attractive berries for something edible or when leaves get mixed into herbal preparations. The berries appear in late summer and fall, each one looking like a tiny red jewel nestled in dark green needles. What makes yew particularly insidious is that it has no strong warning taste, no bitterness that makes you immediately spit it out. The plant just looks so civilized and manicured in those neat hedges that it's hard to imagine it harboring such potency. If you have young children or curious pets, you might want to reconsider yew as a foundation plant, or at least ensure everyone in your household knows to treat it as look but don't touch. Do you have yew shrubs in your landscape? And did you know about their toxic nature before now? As autumn settles across New England and the mid-Atlantic states, the woodlands explode with color, and one of the most striking sights is bittersweet vine loaded with brilliant orange and red berries that practically glow against the fading landscape. Both American bittersweet and the more aggressive oriental bittersweet produce these capsules that split open to reveal scarlet berries. And they're so visually stunning that people harvest the vines for fall decorations and wreaths. But those gorgeous berries contain alkaloids that cause severe digestive upset, and children have been poisoned after eating them, attracted by their candy-like appearance. Oriental bittersweet has become invasive across much of the eastern United States, strangling trees and overwhelming native vegetation with its vigorous twining growth. The vines climb telephone poles, wrap around mature oaks, and create impenetrable tangles that are nightmare fuel for land managers trying to restore natural areas. If you're foraging for decorative branches, you need to know that handling the vines is generally safe. But those berries should never go anywhere near your mouth, and you'll want to wash your hands thoroughly after crafting with them. The real danger comes when the berries drop and curious toddlers or pets find them on the ground, because that brilliant color is nature's way of attracting animals for seed dispersal, not warning them away. What's your experience with bittersweet, and have you ever brought it indoors for seasonal decorating? Here's something that might surprise you, because it's sitting in garden centers right now being sold as an attractive ornamental that deer won't touch. Heavenly bamboo, which isn't actually bamboo at all, but a shrub called Nandina, has become wildly popular in southern landscapes from coastal Carolina through Texas because it stays green year-round, produces clouds of white flowers in spring, and then sets clusters of bright red berries that persist through winter. Landscapers love it for problem areas with poor soil, and homeowners appreciate that it requires almost zero maintenance once established. But those cheerful red berries contain cyanogenic glycosides, compounds that break down into cyanide in the digestive system, and they've been directly linked to bird deaths, particularly cedar waxwings that gorge on the berries during winter. The toxicity affects mammals too, including humans, causing respiratory distress and potentially fatal complications if consumed in quantity. Young children are at risk because the berries appear at a height that's easy for small hands to reach, and they look remarkably similar to safe red currants. The concerning part is how widespread Nandina has become in suburban and urban plantings across the Sun Belt, often placed right along walkways and near playgrounds where children play. Some newer cultivars have been bred to produce fewer berries, but the standard varieties still fruit heavily, and those berries cling to the branches for months, creating an extended window of exposure. If you've got Nandina in your yard, take a moment to evaluate whether its placement makes sense given who uses that space. Are you growing Nandina, and has anyone ever mentioned the berry toxicity to you when you purchased it? Let's shift gears to something that grows wild in damp, shaded areas across the northern states and might be the most aptly named toxic plant in this entire discussion. White Baneberry, also called doll's eyes, produces some of the most unsettling fruit you'll ever encounter in an American woodland. The berries are stark white with a black dot on the end sitting atop bright red stalks, and they genuinely look like tiny eyeballs staring at you from the forest floor. This native perennial thrives in the cool, moist woodlands of the Northeast, Upper Midwest, and Pacific Northwest, often growing in the same conditions that suit trilliums and wild ginger. The entire plant contains cardiogenic toxins that affect the heart muscle, and consuming even a few berries can cause severe burning sensations in the mouth, intense stomach cramping, dizziness, and in serious cases, cardiac arrest. Historical records document that Native American tribes knew this plant well and gave it wide berth, recognizing its danger long before modern toxicology could explain why. The plant's distinctive appearance makes it easier to identify than some other toxic species, which is fortunate because those ghostly berries have an uncanny allure that might tempt someone unfamiliar with woodland plants. White baneberry typically appears in late summer when the berries ripen, and it prefers undisturbed forests where the soil stays consistently moist. If you're into native plant gardening or spend time hiking in northern forests, this is one species you'll want to memorize on site. The common name baneberry comes from an Old English word meaning poison or death, which tells you everything you need to know about how our ancestors viewed this plant. Have you ever stumbled across doll's eyes during a woodland hike, and did their appearance unsettle you? Now we need to talk about something that causes more accidental poisonings in North America than almost any other plant, and it's probably growing in a hedgerow near you right now. Virginia creeper produces clusters of dark blue berries that ripen in late summer and fall. And here's the problem. They look almost identical to wild grapes, which often grow in the same locations. Both plants are vigorous vines that climb trees, fences, and buildings. Both produce similar colored fruit at the same time of year. But Virginia creeper berries contain oxalate crystals that cause intense burning and swelling in the mouth and throat, along with stomach upset that can be severe enough to require medical attention. The key to telling them apart lies in the leaves and tendrils. Virginia creeper has 5 leaflets arranged like fingers on a hand and uses adhesive discs to cling to surfaces, while wild grapes have simple lobed leaves and curling tendrils. But when you're looking up at a tangle of vines 20 feet overhead with clusters of dark berries hanging down, that distinction becomes much harder to make, especially for children or inexperienced foragers. Virginia creeper grows absolutely everywhere in the eastern United States, thriving in sun or shade, tolerating poor soil, and spreading with abandon. It's actually a native plant that provides valuable cover for wildlife and beautiful fall color when the leaves turn deep crimson. The berries are an important food source for birds, but they're dangerous for humans. And every year, emergency rooms see cases of children who've eaten them. The reaction happens quickly, within minutes of chewing the berries, so at least the burning sensation serves as an immediate warning. If you're teaching children about foraging or wild foods, Virginia creeper versus wild grape identification needs to be lesson 1, because misidentifying these two could turn a nature walk into a medical emergency. Do you have Virginia creeper growing on your property, and can you confidently distinguish it from grapevines? Here's where things get really interesting, because I want to tell you about a plant that's been used in traditional medicine for centuries, but remains intensely toxic in the wrong doses or preparations. Elderberry bushes grow wild and cultivated across most of the United States, producing flat-topped clusters of tiny white flowers in spring, followed by drooping clusters of purple-black berries in late summer. Now, cooked elderberries are safe and even beneficial, loaded with antioxidants and traditionally made into syrups, jams, and wine. But raw elderberries, the leaves, stems, and especially the roots, contain cyanogenic glycosides that can cause severe nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The seeds contain the highest concentration of these compounds, so even the ripe berries need proper preparation. People who don't know better sometimes eat raw elderberries straight from the bush or make fresh juice without cooking it first, and they quickly regret that decision. The plant itself is easy to grow across much of the country, tolerating wet soils that other fruiting shrubs despise and producing abundantly without much care. You'll find elderberry growing wild along streams, in ditches, and at the edges of forests from the humid southeast to the cooler climates of New England and the Pacific Northwest. Red elderberry, a western species, is even more toxic than the common black elderberry and should be avoided entirely, even when cooked. The confusion comes because elderberry has such a strong reputation as a beneficial plant that people forget it requires proper handling and preparation. Every part of the plant except the flowers and properly cooked berries should be treated as toxic. This is a perfect example of how traditional knowledge and proper technique matter tremendously when working with wild plants. Have you ever made elderberry syrup or foraged wild elderberries? And did you know about the importance of cooking them thoroughly? Let me share something that might be blooming in a shaded corner of your garden right now, looking absolutely enchanting with its delicate bell-shaped flowers. Lily of the Valley is beloved by gardeners for its sweet fragrance and ability to thrive in deep shade where little else will grow, spreading into dense ground cover that suppresses weeds and looks elegant beneath trees. Those adorable white bells appear in spring, and by late summer they're replaced by round orange-red berries that glow like tiny lanterns among the green foliage. Every single part of this plant contains cardiac glycosides, similar to digitalis, affecting heart rhythm and function, and the berries are particularly concentrated with these compounds. Children have been hospitalized after eating just a few berries, experiencing irregular heartbeat, confusion, and severe gastrointestinal symptoms. What makes Lily of the Valley especially treacherous is how common it is in established gardens, often planted decades ago and still spreading reliably year after year. It grows happily in zones covering most of the northern United States, from the cool summers of Minnesota to the moderate climates of Pennsylvania and Oregon. The plant rarely gets mentioned as toxic in casual gardening conversations because it's so pretty and traditional, but those berries pose a real risk, especially in yards where small children play. Even the water from a vase holding cut lily of the valley flowers can be toxic if ingested. This is another case where education is your best defense, teaching everyone in your household that this ground cover is for looking at, not touching or tasting. The plant's aggressive spreading habit means those berries can pop up in unexpected places, under shrubs or along walkways where curious hands might reach them. When was the last time you really looked at your lily of the valley patch, and did you notice the berries forming after the flowers faded? I saved one for last that might be the most controversial on this list because it involves a plant that many people consider beneficial and even grow intentionally for its supposed health properties. Nightshade berries come in several varieties across North America, but the most common is black nightshade, which produces small round berries that start green and ripen to dark purple or black. Here's where things get complicated. Some sources claim that fully ripe black nightshade berries are edible and even nutritious, while others warn that all parts of the plant contain solanine and should be avoided entirely. The truth is that toxicity varies significantly between different nightshade species and even between individual plants based on growing conditions. What's dangerous is that nightshade plants pop up as weeds in vegetable gardens, often right next to tomatoes and peppers, since they're all in the same botanical family. Those shiny black berries might tempt someone who thinks they're dealing with a wild food, but the risk simply isn't worth it. Deadly nightshade, also called belladonna, is even more dangerous and can be fatal in small amounts, though it's less common in North American gardens. The safer approach is to treat all nightshade berries as toxic and remove these plants from areas where children play or pets roam. Nightshade thrives in disturbed soil, loves garden edges, and can appear seemingly overnight in vegetable beds or flower borders. The plants produce pretty star-shaped flowers, usually white or pale purple, followed by those glossy berries that hang in small clusters. If you're not absolutely certain about plant identification and the specific species you're dealing with, leave nightshade berries alone entirely. Has nightshade ever volunteered in your garden, and how did you handle it? So we've walked through 9 different berries that look innocent or even appealing, but carry genuine risks for humans. From the magenta stems of pokeweed to the ghostly white eyes of Baneberry, from the decorative appeal of Nandina to the garden favorite lily of the valley, these plants prove that nature doesn't always advertise danger with obvious warning signs. The real takeaway here isn't to fear your garden or avoid the outdoors, but rather to approach unfamiliar berries with healthy skepticism and educate yourself and your family about what's growing in your space. Knowledge transforms anxiety into confidence, turning a potential hazard into simply another fascinating aspect of the plant world that deserves respect. Teaching children the fundamental rule that wild berries are never food, unless a knowledgeable adult specifically identifies them as safe, creates a foundation that protects them for life. The same goes for pets, especially curious dogs, who might sample berries during walks or yard time. Think about the plants growing in your own landscape right now, the volunteers appearing along your fence line, the decorative shrubs that came with your house. How many of them produce berries? And do you actually know whether those berries are safe? Which of these 9 poisonous berries was most surprising to you, and are any of them growing in your yard right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I love hearing your experiences and learning what's growing in gardens across the country. If this information felt valuable and might protect someone you care about, go ahead and share this video with friends and family who garden or spend time outdoors. And if you want to keep learning about plants, the good and the dangerous and everything in between, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so you catch every new video. Until next time, Stay curious and stay safe out there among the green growing things.